I discovered my wife had a long-term affair after forgiving her for what I believed to be one-time behavior. I feel cheated all over once more right now. Should I walk away or believe her plea? That is all in the past. My wife Ella, 32, and I, 35, have been together for 7 years, married for 5. 2 years ago she admitted to cheating on me with a co-worker. I'd always believed that cheating was a red line for me, and I was initially determined to divorce her. However, she worked to regain my trust, or so I believed at the time. I also factored in the following, which allowed me to eventually move past it and forgive her. She confessed to me voluntarily. She wasn't fanned out and forced to tell me. It was one time at a housewarming party with the co-worker. I remember that night she didn't return home until 4 a.m. and I sent her several texts checking in to see if she was okay and if she needed me to pick her up. She usually doesn't like to drink but occasionally succumbs to peer pressure, so I was worried she might have been too intoxicated to drive. She quit her job after confessing to me. This was her own choice to prove that she was prepared to hold herself to better boundaries. I actually discouraged her at the time because I was set on divorcing her and was concerned that her lack of a job would mean I would need to pay higher alimony if she was unemployed. When I was 19 years old, I also cheated on my then girlfriend, not Ella, via an intoxicated kiss. Obviously it wasn't as bad as what Ella did. Still, part of me felt like a hypocrite for not being able to forgive Ella because my college girlfriend had forgiven me. Given the above and the fact that Ella genuinely seemed remorseful, everything else in our relationship was great, and she was the most compatible person I'd ever dated personality-wise, I decided to forgive Ella and not divorce her because she signed a post-snub. She enthusiastically agreed. The post-snub wasn't overly harsh, in my opinion, aside from affirming that our premarital assets won't go into the settlement in the event of a divorce. It also included an infidelity clause with the penalty of the cheater forfeiting our jointly owned home, the car, and alimony in the event of a divorce. The balance would also be split 60-40 in favor of the cheated spouse rather than 50-50. We both had independent legal advice when this was drafted and signed. Fast forward to last month when I was contacted on Facebook by Alice, the wife of my wife's affair partner. She'd tracked me down by going through Ella's social media. She told me that she caught her husband Bill cheating on her and discovered their affair from 2 years ago after going through his electronic devices. She asked if I knew and I replied that I did, but I thanked her for telling me anyway. She wondered what had happened between Ella and me, and I told her that we had reconciled. She said she was determined to divorce Bill because, unlike my wife, Bill had proven to be a serial cheater and never confessed to her. The part that has since changed my mind about forgiving Ella is the fact that she revealed that Bill and Ella had actually been having an affair for 5 months. I clarified if she meant an emotional affair. Still, she clarified that it was a physical affair and that they'd hooked up over 10 times. In my mind, this makes the affair so much worse. It wasn't just an intoxicated night, it was a long period of planned and deliberate choices, and I feel like an absolute fool. This past weekend I confronted Ella, and she admitted it. I asked why she didn't tell me the whole truth, and she said she didn't believe I would have forgiven her if I'd known. She's been trying to convince me that it's in the past. We've made 2 years of progress since, and it doesn't matter whether it was once or 10 times. She argues that her confession showed genuine remorse, but my current thought is that the omission shows that even in her confession, her main concern was protecting herself rather than respecting me as a spouse by giving me the agency to make a fully informed choice. Not that different from never telling me in the first place. Am I the idiot for changing my mind about forgiving my wife for cheating after she signed a post-snap in my favor? Not the idiot. It's like she cheated all over again, only 10 times as much. Her core lack of integrity and selfishness is reflected in her fake confession you figured out on your own. She's defective and has been playing you for 2.5 years. She confessed initially because someone saw them be too close at the party, and she wanted to preempt you being told. So you were voluntarily told the minimum trickle truth 101. This right here. Press the speed dial with your attorney and get things rolling. It's nearly criminal how some people will take advantage of one's generosity and honor. She absolutely knew he was going to figure it out, and that was the only reason she confessed. Go for it. She's been living in the lie for all these years. All the effort to repair the marriage was a sham. The post-snap was based on one stupid mistake. Seems there were more mistakes. Hope the judge agrees. Oh, and be sure to tell everyone why you're divorcing her. Exposure is the only true justice cheaters ever get. While I cannot blame you for divorcing her over the fact that it was a full-blown affair rather than just one night cheating, I'm not sure your post-snap will hold up in court because of the fact that the infidelity happened before it was signed. I'm not a lawyer and could be wrong, but you should definitely inquire with your lawyer about it before making that decision. I'm sorry about all of this. I, 26 female, have been with my boyfriend, 28 male, for about a year. We get along well most of the time, but something happened last weekend that's really been bothering me. We went to his parents' house for dinner, and ever since things have been awkward. A bit of backstory. I love cooking. I'm not a professional by any means, but I'm passionate about and take pride in it. My boyfriend knows this, but he's constantly comparing my cooking to his mom's, especially when it comes to her lasagna. I've heard about this lasagna more times than I can count. So before we leave for his parents' house, he makes this offhand comment. Maybe you'll finally learn how to make lasagna properly tonight. Yours could definitely use some improvement. I tried to laugh it off, but honestly it hurt my feelings. Still, I brushed it aside because I didn't want to start anything before dinner. We get to his parents' place, and as expected, his mom's lasagna is the star of the meal. Everyone is raving about it, and of course my boyfriend jumps in to say, "Oh man, this is real lasagna." I hope he'd try making it once, but let's just say there's a reason we're all here eating my mom's tonight. Everyone laughed. I felt embarrassed but kept smiling to avoid making things awkward. Then he kept going, saying that I burned the sauce. I didn't, and that maybe I should leave lasagna to the experts. His family was cracking up, and I sat there trying not to lose it. It wasn't just a joke to me, it felt like he was putting me down, especially in front of his family, who I'm still trying to make a good impression with. I couldn't handle it anymore, so I excused myself from the table and went to sit in the car. A few minutes later, my boyfriend came out looking confused and asked why I'd left. I told him how hurt I was by his comments, and instead of apologizing, he said I was overreacting, and that it was just a joke. He said I needed to stop being so sensitive and learn to take a joke, especially around his family. I was upset, and told him that if he thought embarrassing me in front of his family was funny, maybe he should just date his mom's cooking instead. Now that didn't go over well. He got angry and accused me of ruining the night. Since then we've barely spoken, and he's waiting for me to apologize, but I feel he should be apologizing. Now I'm wondering, did I take it too far? Was I being overly sensitive, or was I right to walk out after being embarrassed like that? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your boyfriend's jokes at dinner weren't funny. They were hurtful and disrespectful, especially since he embarrassed you in front of his family. It's understandable that you felt upset, and walking out was a reasonable response. Instead of acknowledging your feelings, he dismissed them, which isn't fair. You're not being overly sensitive, you just want to be treated with respect. He should be the one apologizing, not expecting you to. Yeah, the guy is managing to be completely insensitive and overly sensitive. Anyone who refuses to try to understand your perspective while demanding you align with theirs is not worth another second of your time. OP, just be aware that you will never be as good a cook as his mother, in his mind. You only wasted a year with this loser. Drop this mama's boy like a bad habit, and find someone better. My ex-husband, 40 male, and I, 40 female, were together from the time we were 15 to 35. The last couple of years were not happy, and the reason was because he had a change of heart about kids. When we met, we were kids and never talked about children, but then we were in our mid-20s, and both realized we actually didn't want children. Our marriage was beautiful, and when it got bad at the end, we chose to end it before we started hating each other and ruining all of the good memories. Only when he moved out did I realize that we hadn't been in love for a while, which was heartbreaking. I never knew how heartbreaking it is to fall out of love with someone who was a big part of your life. Within a year, he'd met a woman, and she was pregnant. He's now married with 2 children. He seems happy, and I've spent some time every now and then looking up his life online. While neither he nor his partner are avid social media users, he seems very happy. When I saw him holding his children or playing with them, I felt immense loneliness, even if I still had my family and friends. Not only him, my siblings around me, my best friends, everyone was having children, and it made me feel increasingly lonely. All the people I know have priorities now that aren't us, siblings or friends anymore. I felt terrible loneliness all the time. I met my fiancé 3 years ago. I love him very deeply, and I'm very happy with him. I told him I wanted a baby, and he was very happy. Now I'm 7 months pregnant. My ex-husband has heard about it, and he is very upset about it. He wanted to meet me to talk, and his sister told me that. He's angry that I lied to him. But I swear I didn't lie, I just changed. Our last period together changed me, and so did the years after the divorce. Seeing everyone happy around me, I am totally lonely. Even my divorced friends had their children to love and care about, and seemed content. I never meant to hurt him. I don't even understand why he is hurt either, because he seems to be very happy, and his sister told me that he is. He's your ex. No need to engage. He does not own you. You do not owe him an explanation. People are allowed to change. You even said yourself that you no longer loved each other. That's the reason you divorced. Disagreeing about children was just an excuse. Having children together would not have solved any of the other problems in your relationship. Maybe, without even realizing it yourself, when you said you didn't want children, you meant you didn't want children with him. He has a whole family and has to move on. And it's weird that he's angry. Like, excuse me sir, you have a whole family. Mind your business, leave me alone. Most probably he's finding closure. In his perspective, he'd be thinking that the ex can change her mind about babies for her new fiancé but not entertain the thought for him, putting the relationship. What was the relationship in his thoughts? In a bad light. Maybe not the idiot, but being lonely is not a good reason to have a child. Kids don't fix loneliness. They often create new challenges and stresses. Please seek individual counseling. Having kids because everyone else around them has them is a big mistake. People like you like the idea of kids but don't want a parent. Yeah, especially as babies. Babies don't love you. They need you. Parenthood can absolutely be super lonely, and this child is already being set up for codependency, I'm afraid. Also, If this guy is married with children, he should focus on his wife and family. What on earth is there to discuss? What will he do? Suggest they both destroy their current relationships and families? This is not a meeting or discussion that should ever take place. People grow apart. People change. People move on. He needs to keep moving on. I'm 30 male, newly engaged. I've been with my now fiancée, 28 female, for 7 years. She's starting to avoid my mom and wants nothing to do with her, and I'm torn in the middle. My fiancé and mother are completely different women in terms of personality, but they've always gotten along. Nothing between them specifically happened, but my fiancé dropped the bomb last night because she couldn't take seeing my mom anymore. My mom and her dad live in the same city 4 hours away from us, so we only visit 3 or 4 times a year. My mom expects us as company when we do visit, and it's been this way since we dated. This arrangement never seemed to bother my fiancé until now. But again, my mom is antisocial and also has my adult siblings and 2-year-old nephew living with her, so she's quite busy. We hosted an engagement dinner in my parents' city, and my mom didn't come to meet my fiancé's side of the family while she had members fly in from out of state. My mom had to watch my nephew, so she declined but kindly invited us to her home that night. That infuriated my fiancé. She said, "Why would I visit your mom's house after she ignored our night?" There was another time my fiancé had a nursing graduation party at my future in-laws and my family didn't come but was invited. That upset my fiancé, and added to the, they don't care about stuff we have going on. She can't fathom that my family doesn't have to show up to anything for us, but she's expected to visit there, when we do finally see each other. That's honestly the only way I get to see my family. They're homebodies. She told me it's embarrassing to constantly explain this to her side of the family. Well, my fiancé's mom passed away this summer and we visited my mom last month, and that was the icing on the cake for my fiancé. She told me once we got home she was greatly offended that my mom couldn't ask her how she's been doing, hug her, or even share her condolences upon visiting. She told me she was exhausted because she was the only one who seemed to give a heck. She asked me if my mom even knew her mom passed away, and I told her I mentioned it when she passed. She told me she's tired of being expected to visit when my mom clearly doesn't reciprocate visits, or ask about her well-being. I don't understand why my fiancé can't lower her expectations because I told her my mom is just a person. She doesn't believe me because it's not fair that the expectations fall on her and my mom gets a pass for being unempathetic and making a low effort in our lives. She also mentioned my mom hasn't acknowledged or asked about the wedding, and she just has a list of what my mom hasn't done. My in-laws are far more supportive and close as a family, so we spend the majority of time with them anyway. One of the last things she said to me was, "I can't imagine bringing kids into this." As in, she won't want to have kids with me because my mom doesn't come to stuff. I don't know what to tell my mother because recently I've been having to visit alone, and my mom will ask where she is, and assume there's an issue. I now have to think of excuses for her not attending. My fiancée has washed her hands and now I'm in the middle. It's such a lose-lose situation. I said that even though I understand her expectations of my mother are low, why can't she be the bigger person and just visit with me the 3 or 4 times we do visit? My fiancé has been extremely upset, and hasn't talked to me in almost a week because of this. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. Your mom has a do everything on my terms and cater to me attitude, and your response is, she's shy. Dude, come on man. The fact that your mom sucks towards your future wife isn't necessarily a deal breaker. Still, your attitude that it's definitely would be. Anytime someone has to trot out to be the bigger person, you just want them to continue to be doormatted because you don't want to have uncomfortable conversations with your family. But guess what? That's your job, pal. Don't forget about him making all the excuses to his mother about why his fiancée isn't there. Suddenly it's a problem now that he's the one who has to explain away absences. But it was just fine for fiancé to constantly be put in that uncomfortable position, and he seems to be completely oblivious to how rude, unfair and selfish dad is. Frankly, I'm surprised she's still there with OP. I dump parts of my own family when they behave like OP's family. Wow. OP. Everything I've read in this story is all about you and your family and what you and your family want. Not once did you ever mention having any compassion or understanding for what your fiancé wants. She's realizing it's a your mom's way or the highway relationship, and that's not sustainable. Enjoy your relationship while you can, because if you don't change, she will realize that her future mother-in-law's problem is a husband problem.